Welcome to Astroventure, the DSLR astrophotography channel. Hey there, Astroventurers, welcome back. If you're new to this astrophotography channel, my name is George, and this is the astrophotography channel for DSLR or mirrorless camera bodies, combined with the lenses we already own in a simple star tracker like the Skyguider Pro or the Star Adventurer. Now, by profession, I'm actually a photographer. And since this astrophotography channel is centered around astrophotography using a DSLR or a mirrorless camera body, I figured I'd do a quick 5 camera tips for those of you that maybe are, kind of new to all of this and you're not quite the experts you want to be with your camera. So 5 quick tips. First off, white balance. Your white balance always needs to be set. Don't use an auto white balance. The reason being is that your camera can shift around as to what it thinks, and then that can cause some issues from frame to frame because the white balance is off. If I'm shooting something like the Milky Way, I prefer to set my camera to a 3700 to 4100 Kelvin. That gives me a bit of a bluish tint to my images. If I am not shooting wide and I am on my stock camera, my preference, I like to set my white balance at daytime or sunlight. And then finally, because some of the shooting I do is with my Astro modded camera, to set the white balance for that one, I use an 18% gray card. I set that in the shade, and I take a custom white balance with my Astro modded camera to include having the lens filter on for light pollution that I use, and that way there it helps to zero things out. So that's what I like for tip number 1 for my white balance. Tip number 2, shoot raw. If you're not doing this already, make sure that you're shooting raw. The difference between JPEG and RAW. JPEG is processed by the camera, and then after it does its processing, the camera throws out a lot of data. So just to kind of give you an example, and this is a bit of an oversimplification, imagine going from the number range of 1 to 10. After the camera does its JPEG processing, it will retain the data, say in the middle of 4, 5, 6. But everything beyond that, 1, 2, and 3, and 7, 8, 9, 10, that data is all thrown out. It's no longer there. So when you go to start editing your image and you're really needing to pull from those dark areas, the data's not there. It's thrown it out. And just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, my one camera that I shoot with, in raw images, my file sizes can be up to 100 meg. It's a massive file. However, my JPEG images that come out of there are only 15 to 30 meg at most, and that difference between numbers is data thrown away. So please make sure you're shooting in RAW if you're not already. 3, make sure that if your camera has image stabilization, either on the lens or in the body, make sure you shut that off. Reason being is that when you have the camera mounted on your gear, because it is stationary, sometimes the camera gets tricked up and it thinks there's movement, and it will actually start to either move the glass within the lens if you have image stabilization there, or it'll start to move the sensor inside your camera body if you have in-body stabilization. Now, you may have left it on, you may have gotten lucky and not had it affect your image, but I'm telling you, at some point it will happen, and it'll probably be, Murphy's Law, the worst time to happen, but it will happen at some point. So make sure image stabilization is off. Number 4, to get your best, sharpest images with these long exposures that we shoot for astrophotography, shoot in live mode. That way your mirror is up. Now, you mirrorless guys, you won't have to worry about this one. But for those of us with mirrors, DSLRs, every time it goes to take a picture, that mirror pops up and it causes what we refer to as mirror slap, causes a vibration. This can cause softness in your image. If you will stay in live view, that will prevent the mirror from moving, cycling, and causing mirror slap. Mirrorless guys, you got an edge. You don't have to worry about that one. Now, I recently learned that some Canon models actually have a mode that you can activate, and I apologize that I'm not more literate on it, but there's a way to go into your settings and tell the mirror to stay up. That way there you're not having to burn additional battery in a live view mode, but your mirror stays up and doesn't mirror slap. Number 5, this one is specifically for the cold. When you go to bring your camera in, and we've all seen it at some point, primarily if you wear glasses, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You come in from the cold, enter inside the house, and everything fogs over. Well, the best, the smartest thing you can do for your camera equipment is when you're done for the night, before you come in, put your gear inside of a camera bag. That camera bag will act like a bit of an insulator to slow down the warmth and the humidity inside of the house, hitting the cold of your camera, and then you don't end up with humidity or sweat on the lenses, or even worse, inside the camera body. So put it in there, leave it in the bag, bring it in, let it sit for an hour, allow the temperatures to stabilize, and all the way around, it's going to be much better for the long term, and you don't end up with spotting showing up on your lens or possibly your camera sensor. So there you go, 5 camera tips. White balance, shoot raw, image stabilization off, live view, or if you have the Canon camera that has that mode to keep it mirror up, do so. And lastly, in the cold, make sure that your camera goes into a bag so that the transition of temperature is slow and you don't get that sweating on your lens. Until next time, I wish you clear skies and uneventful nights.